Hey guys, it's Dr. Tom Chaney here from Living Health Integrative Medicine in Annapolis. In today's video, I want to talk about and explain some of the symptoms of mold toxicity. This is something that I'm seeing with many of my patients that come in that have been chronically sick, so they've been sick for extended period of time. Maybe they have gotten a diagnosis that they have fibromyalgia, or they have an autoimmune disease like rheumatoid arthritis or Hashimoto's thyroiditis, or maybe they've been diagnosed with chronic fatigue. I've got some of my patients with cognitive decline and Alzheimer's suffering from some of these symptoms that come from mold toxicity. So what are some of the symptoms? Well, we see that it definitely can affect memory, it affects energy, it affects organ function, gland function. There's many different symptoms and dysfunctions that can occur from mold toxicity. So let's talk about where does this come from, mold toxicity. So most of us think, well, you know, I'm living in a house and I don't see any visible signs of mold, so I must be okay. Well, we know that that's not true. We know mold can come from various places. We see that water damaged buildings is the number one source, and you don't have to have visible mold for it to be a problem. So this could be at your home, this could be at work. We also see patients that have had in the past, I've had patients that had mold in their car, in their ventilation system. So that's blowing into their respiratory tract, which was causing issues. So there's many different sources. Number one place is water damaged buildings. Also food. Food can be another source of mold. Now, why is this important? What we see is there's about 25% of the population that cannot detoxify the toxins that are produced by the mold. So these toxins, they just build in the system and they can't be eliminated. So that's when they start to create dysfunction at the cellular level. They start to cause gland dysfunction. They start to cause organ dysfunction. And that's when you start to have symptoms. And that's when you start to go from doctor to doctor to doctor trying to get answers, and it seems like no one can get down to the root of what's causing it. So in our practice, there's some ways to tell. We want to take a very thorough history to see if there's any indication of exposure to mold. But there's many of my patients that have no recollection of being exposed to mold. But when we start running the testing and start digging into the case further and really looking at function inside the body, we actually see that there are signs of mold toxicity. So there are laboratory tests that help us make the diagnosis. There are some inflammatory markers that are indicative of being exposed to mold, so we can run those inflammatory markers. There's some mycotoxin testing that can also help us and give us an indication, are there high levels of mold toxins in the body? And then once we know that this is an issue, then we can start remediating the body. We start eliminating these toxins, pulling them out of the system, and then rebuilding the body and repairing the body and getting the damage and the dysfunction back into balance. So I hope this explained some of the questions that you have about symptoms of mold toxicity and how mold toxins can affect the body. If you have any questions, leave them down below. If you like this video, share it with somebody, and I hope to see you in the next video.